Hello, hello. This is Kristina, your host today. And today's new episode of KSM Podcast, Growing Business Online with Kristina. And, you know, I'm so excited today to have my special guest speaker, lady Teri Karjala. Teri, welcome to the new episode of KSM Podcast.
Oh, it's such a delight to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, and thank you for joining. You are from US, is that
Yes.
correct?
Out of
And
Colorado.
Colorado, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm in Southeast Europe, in Belgrade, Serbia. So we are in the two different sides in this
I know. Isn't
world.
that so amazing? And how technology can bring us together? I
Yes,
love
of
it.
course. It's so fun. It's brilliant. And tell us a little bit about you. Introduce yourself. I know that you're a coach, business coach. Um, you run your TV show, your television, but just you're
Yeah, yeah,
the best person who know yourself.
yeah, of course. So I used to be a therapist, a mental health therapist. I started my company right after my master's degree. I went into counseling. I built a very large counseling practice at that time. Once that went into an owner independent company, and then I started dabbling into another company just because if you are a business owner and you know, but it wasn't until I had stabilized that. It was interesting because my social media person at the time, she goes, what's your retirement plan? And this was like 17, 18 years ago. And I said, and I word vomited at her and I said, "Oh, I'm going to be traveling around the world and speaking. And I'm going to be, I think it's going to be called Talking with Teri." She goes, "Oh, I love it. You should buy the domains." And I go, and at the moment when I said that out of my mouth, I'm like, where did that come from? At the time I said it, I was terrified of speaking and I actually hated my name. When I was growing up, I had like a whole big trauma around my name. Because it's a gender neutral name, people would make fun of me because it's a boy's name, and I had kids make fun of me. So I really hated my name. So I was like, what the heck? How did that come through to me, right? So lo and behold, I did register it when she told me to do it, and then it was kind of like my little midnight project that I called it. And so I would dilly dally on that, here and there. But my primary focus at the time was the counseling practice. Once the practice went owner independent, I was only working about 2 hours a month in that company. That gave me the time freedom to work on Talking with Teri. So I was a therapist, and then I started combining energy psychology and then quantum physics. So how do universal laws impact business owners? And so now today I only work with women entrepreneurs and business owners that are wanting to scale their business. So really I go in and look at what are the things that are holding us back. Most high achieving women have like the top 5 blocks, which is limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, the imposter syndrome, getting stuck in fear or overwhelm. And so I would go in there and work on clearing those out. And then I would teach them the tools on how to use energy to leverage and scale their business. So helping them manifest more of what they do desire. And so that was really fun and fantastic. And this has continued to grow that. And then along the way, I've also realized that for a lot of entrepreneurs, so I was researching the other day, and they said that 2% of women make it to the 7 figures. And I just thought, and I'm like, that number just doesn't resonate with me because I know so many, including my own company. I'm like, there's so many companies that I know that have reached the 7 figures. Why is it that I know so many people that have created 7 figure businesses? So I started doing some more research, and what I found out is that, do you know how many businesses do not make more than $50,000 in their business? Take a guess. How many entrepreneurs? 80%. 80% of
80%.
entrepreneurs and business owners
Unbelievable.
in the US, and that's according to the Small Business Association. Now, granted, those stats were the last stats was from 2017, so they're a bit dated. But in 2017, 80% of business owners did not make more than 50% of $50,000 in their income. And it's like, this is the problem. So I'm like, how do we help business owners grow their business? And so then I started using, I say there's always 2 ways to build a business: there's the marathon and the sprint. The marathon's the networking, the connections, the collaborations, and those just take really long time. And then there's a sprint, which is through speaking. And so then I started, doing some VIP days to give people the tools to go out and speak so that they can have a bigger impact. So very similar to your message, right? How do you use social media and how do you market yourself in your public to grow your business? So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Yeah. And Teri, did you work maybe in corporate sector, like in
I did
like
work for a
corporate
lot of,
America, or what is your background? You
yeah,
mentioned from therapist and what you've done
yeah.
before,
So
but
I worked
before
at
you
a lot of,
start your own business journey, just to
yeah,
share with us.
I worked at a lot of nonprofit companies. So I worked at two different nonprofit companies. They were very successful. Just because it's a nonprofit doesn't mean that they're not successful. They were one of the, very successful
And
nonprofits.
what was your experience? Did did that experience help you in your business, just to recognize something new, or just to learn something new and move forward after that?
Absolutely. I feel like every experience gives us life lessons, right? I think from that experience, one of the biggest things that I learned from that was, you know, first of all, everyone told me that there was a nonprofit culture. And I was like, but I'm in the nonprofit. I would know if there's a nonprofit culture. And it wasn't until I started into my other company, and that is a for-profit company, that I really realized the kind of the mindset shift. But and a lot of times it comes from a place of scarcity. There's not enoughness. And then when I went out into my own company, I was like, wow, it's a place of abundance, it's a place of prosperity, it's a place of, so that was a big takeaway. But I think I took away a lot of, obviously, I always watched my bosses at the time. How are they running the company? What are they doing? How are they engaging community? So all of that was, amazing life lessons that I took away from those things. And then of course, like I never saw myself owning a private practice and building a private practice. Honestly, what happened was I was working at a company and they had asked me to do something unethical. And I said no. And so my boss honored it. And then 6 months later, she came back and said, okay, Teri, you're going to do this. It's my executive decision. You're going to do this. And I was like, ooh, that's unethical. I'm not okay with that. So I went home that night, wrote my resignation, gave him a month's notice. Like I wasn't, I wanted to make sure I didn't burn that bridge. Um, but then I told my husband, and it was so funny. I went to my husband and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to open my own private practice. And he's like, but I'm so scared, right? And he goes, what's the worst that can happen? He's like, you fall on your face, you go get another job. And I go, oh, I mean, what? I mean, I was like, that's it? Like, I just fail and I can just go get another job. And so I was like, oh, yeah, so it's not so bad. So ended up, and I wish I would have known now what I know then. Like I think we all wish we could have done, have that. I would have done something a little bit differently in the first few months. But I started my company out with zero in the bank and grew it to, we generated millions in that company, and it was a really successful company. And after we, transitioned it, I'm just like, I'm very blessed and honored. I had that company for over 20 years. And we served so many people, so many families, so many kids. We specialize in trauma. So we saw a lot of kids with sexual abuse, physical abuse, witnessing domestic violence, homicides, suicides, anything traumatic you can imagine.
And
Um,
that company was like for counseling,
Counseling, yeah, mental health
counseling,
counseling.
counseling.
And it really was my path to, I did some really great things, and it was like these little, moments along my journey. And now I get to do, I take all that knowledge and resources and experiences with me into this new company. And, the biggest difference between that company and this company is this is more online. This is more of a virtual, company, where that was a brick and mortar for sure. I do have a studio. We do have when we do Talking with Teri TV, we bring in guests here and have it at our studio. But other than that, like, I do a lot of speaking, and working with, doing coaching, one-on-one coaching and group coaching. So
That's lovely also. But and you mentioned previous company, that it was like you were working, you worked with different people, different ages, and also it was like and getting like a therapy or something like that, to talking to them, help them in that way
yeah. Hmm.
to change their life, or to just
Oh
resolve
yeah,
their
yeah.
problems
A lot,
or
a lot, a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma. So
Mhm.
obviously when I take that forward with me, when I'm working with entrepreneurs and high achieving women, there's always these, limiting beliefs. There's some stories in there that we've taken on from other people's stories. A lot of women think that they have this like little bit of an imposter syndrome. So that impacts them when they're going out and about and spreading their message because it holds them back. They kind of, play small. And so I love helping, women step into their power fully and own it, right? I was just having this conversation with this individual today, and she had said something. She's like, I have a hard time communicating. I have a hard time. And I was like, here's a story that she's creating that says I'm having a hard time creating. And I have never had, I've had 2 conversations with her and I've never had problems with her with communication, but there's a story that's rolling out. And I was like, that's going to impact your confidence. So can we change that a little bit? So I just gave her a different way to look at it. And I asked her to make a generative question. So a generative question allows us to open ourselves back up to possibilities. And what happens in the brain, and this is so fascinating, when we start to own a story, says, I am blank. I am not a good communicator. I am always late. I am stupid. I am not good at business. Whatever that is, our brain, through the reticulate activating system, will find evidence to support that story. And it's like the internal Google machine. It's like, here it is. And then we will find evidence to support that story. And we're like, so see, Christina, like, see, this does happen. This is right. So in order to kind of flip the switch a little bit, if we ask a question like, you know, what would it be like for me to to show up as a competent communicator? What would it be like for me to communicate with ease? I wonder why it's so easy for me to connect with people and communicate with total ease, right? And so we start to shift, and I didn't do much. I just started asking a question instead of making a statement. And now I'm starting to open up our possibilities. Now, what the brain is doing is we're giving it a job to do. The job now is to go find us new evidence. And now the brain goes, okay, you got it. I'll go do it. And so it's like a little Google machine going back out. And it's like, oh my gosh, did you just see that you just talked with Teri? And that was a really easy conversation. Now that's new evidence. Gosh, I am a great communicator, right? So it's those little subtle things that we can start doing to start shifting the way we show up, right? And then I always talk about, our energy and how we're showing up energetically. I struggled with a learning disability growing up, and I always used to tell people that language is not my first language, and people would be like, well, what is? And I go, oh, it's our energy. Our energy is our first language because you can go into a room, not to say a word, and you can identify people that you're like, oh, I like this person. Oh, I feel like we've known each other forever, right? Versus some people are like, I'm gonna stay away from that one, right? And so our energy is the gateway to communication. Our energy is our gateway to transformation. Our energy is a gateway to those relationships and everything else. And business is no different, which ties back into universal laws of vibration. Whatever's vibrating at the same vibration is what we're going to attract and call into our space.
Yeah, that's lovely, and thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned that your first company, and now, what triggered you to shift it and start doing something similar? Or you mentioned you have your studio there. Can you share with us about it? What triggered you to start it, and who mostly do you serve? Like women,
Yeah.
entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
men, females, males? Just because the topic of this and point of this podcast and episode is just to share much more about business, about your story, and influence audience, or just anyone who wanted to start on business journey
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
inspired by your story. Just and
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
like to ask you those questions to be much
Yes, of
more
course. And I
clear
am
on that.
just because you said something like that to help inspire other people. If there's anyone on your in your community, I have like I downloaded through my own kind of guides, if you will, a letter to new entrepreneurs. And it goes off like, dear future entrepreneur. And it's a great little inspirational letter I am happy to email it to you, and you can email it out to everyone. But it's like a little bit of I recommend printing it on
Yeah,
cardstock and hanging it
of
up
course.
because
So if you have a link, I can share it,
yeah,
or
yeah.
that,
I actually
or
don't
you
have a
can
link, but
send me and
I'll send a link.
I can
I'll
put
figure
the
out a link.
link or something like that, to
Yeah,
send
I'll send one.
audience or someone who wanna just to ask and send message that for our audience, you can hear Teri. So if you wanted that letter, just let me know, connect with me on Teri,
Yeah,
and you will,
yeah,
it's going to be on your way
yeah. I will
to
send it, but
get your
it's a really nice. I don't. Yeah, I'll figure out a link for it, and we'll get it sent over there. But I
thank you
think
so
what
much.
to go back to your question, like what triggered me, it really was, um, uh, it really was that download that I had was just like, I'm going to be, speaking, and it's called Talking with Teri. And so that started allowing me to start opening up to speaking. And really what the one moment that I can talk about that I was terrified of speaking at my company, one of the companies, they asked me to speak. And long story short, I was kind of forced to speak. And during that forced speaking engagement, which I was not, I was going, I was digging in my heels long and strong because I was like, I did not want to do this. But they always talk about getting the speaker bug. And, I did catch the speaker bug at that time. And I was like, oh. So at the beginning of the speech, it was like an hour-long talk. And I hated it. I was so nervous. My throat was on fire. My heart was like, beating in my whole body. And my goal was just to stay vertical and not pass out. But by the end of the time, I had done this interaction, and then, we brought in this really powerful exercise, and then I opened it up to questions, and I was like, I love this. I signed up for some speaking coaching immediately after, and that kind of launched me into this. But what I found, I started doing speaking engagements that was mostly around the therapy piece, and I lost myself in those because my personality is to be fun and playful, high energy, and I like to make people laugh. And you can't make these topics that are talking about sexual abuse, depression, anxiety, abuse, you can't make those entertaining. It's just not appropriate, right? And so I kind of lost myself in these talks that I was giving because I'm like, there's just something missing, right? My personality is not shining through. So I ended up speaking at a conference, and I was teaching them at the tapping EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, and it's like a tapping motion. So in that, it freed me up to be kind of more myself. And that was the one talk where I was like, oh my gosh, I had people laughing. We were having a fun time, and we were being silly and goofy. And so then that's what transformed me into these other talks. So I no longer do that talk, but you incorporate energy, incorporate laughter and playing into my talks so that when people come into the talks, they get activated. I'll just say that they get fully activated energetically to where they leave feeling like a brand new person. They feel so great after that connection. So that's really kind of the timeline on that piece of it. And then for the coaching piece, it kind of came so organic because I had all these therapists that said, Teri, I had a cash basis practice, which is very rare in the state of Colorado. At the time, I think there was only like 6 or 7 of us at the time in the entire state that was doing cash basis versus insurance or third party or anything like that. So I had all these therapists reaching out to me and saying, "How did you do this? How did you do this? How did you grow your business?" And my mentor at the time was like, "Teri, you need to be coaching these people." So then I started coaching, one-on-one coaching, helping them build the business. And then that kind of evolved into other people in other industries reaching out to me. And so now I work with a lot of people in a lot of different industries because it's the same issues, just in different companies, right? Women that are, having those, the top 5 blocks. I mean, there's obviously other ones too, but those are really the big ones. So women are still, in those places of, how do I grow my business, but also how do I grow myself alongside the business and the business success? And so those are kind of those two.
If we don't help ourselves to grow as a person, as a personality, we can do that. This is a way that we can grow in business mode.
Absolutely. I always tell people, like, when people sign up for businesses, they don't necessarily always know that they accidentally, unconsciously also signed up for their own personal development. It's like, hello, welcome. Because anything that we've been running from, hiding from, ignoring, deleting, whatever, it's going to show up until we address it. And so as business owners, sometimes those are not always the easiest to look at. And I'll tell you, gosh, I've had some doozies for sure.
Yeah, and when I mention your company now, your studio, your TV, who do you just host? Who are your speakers on that
Yeah.
television? What are topics? And can you connect that with your coaching part? I mean, how is going with
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, so with the Talking with Terry TV, I go in and I have messages for people. We also do business spotlights. So if you have a successful company, I love helping people share that message out with people. So if you know you have a message and you have created success, what are those success principles? We've had lots of local celebrities on our show. We've had national influencers on our show. But it's about sharing the wisdom, and it's also about leveraging women. I'll be honest, like, I feel like there's a lot of resources for men. I feel like there's a lot of things. But for women, I think it's harder for us to ask for help. I think we think that it's a sign of weakness. And so I want to be able to have a platform for people to get information to be successful, because this energy that's coming in, it's this huge feminine energy
Like
that's
you
coming.
and me now,
I
just when
know,
we are
right?
happy
It's this
and feel that
really
energy.
it's a really dynamic, really powerful energy, and it's coming in to serve us. And I've said for a long time that it's almost like we've had this mirror, and the mirror is over here, and we get to choose to work on ourselves or not. And we look at the mirror, and we're like, am I going to work on myself? Oh gosh, no, no, thank you. That does not sound like fun. I'm just going to keep going minding my own business. What has happened energetically is that the mirror has been moved over smack dab right in front of our face. We cannot avoid it now. We cannot duck it. We cannot move around it. It is there. So everything that we've been avoiding, running from, resisting, is forcing us to look through it. And why that's so important is because there's a lot of women and men that are on this planet right now, and they are being called to do something big. They know. If you ask, they know. They're like, I know. You're already doing it. I know, I'm already doing it. But there's a lot of people that you and I are supposed to also help bring up, and then they also help bring up, and it's just this huge, massive ripple effect, right? And so it's really transforming the energy on this planet. And that's what my big why is like, I feel called to help change the energy on this planet. Like change the vibrations of the planet. And I know that I can do that through working with, one-on-one clients, but I know that through our conversations, it's like, whoever's tuning into this, I hope that they're like, wow, I'm excited. Like, what can I go do something? What's one thing that I can do in my business to help me move the dial forward? Maybe it's connecting with Kristina and scheduling a one-on-one call with her. Maybe it's, reevaluating what am I supposed to be doing, right? So it just gets people excited again, because entrepreneurship, as we all know, can be really tough. I mean, that's another call for another time, but
Yes.
we go through so much. And yet I truly believe that the people that know in their heart of hearts, so I'm just going to throw this out there, all the listeners, if you're not driving, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to put your hand on your heart, and I just want you to know and just ask, to say, what is it that I know that I've been refusing to know? And just sit with that for a moment and just see what comes up, because you know what you're here to do. You know the impact that you have. And impact doesn't have to be a million people. Impact can be one person. Impact can be, I was having a conversation. Um, I was speaking at an event like 4 years ago, and I told a story that I've never told ever before. And it's very embarrassing. And I'm standing there and I'm telling the story, and I'm like, what is happening? Why is this coming out of my mouth? Why? And then, and the story was about, when I was an eighth grader, I had tried taking my own life. And I was obviously horrified and mortified that I would even consider that or think that, right? But I was going through a lot of pain and I didn't know what else, right? I was obviously not successful, thank goodness. But I told that story and I was like, oh my gosh, why am I saying this story? And one of the college students that I was speaking at came up to me and he said, Teri, I thank you for telling me that story because tonight I was going to go and kill myself. And I was like, wow, right? And I was like, that was one person that I may have had a positive impact. Who knows how many people were having a positive impact? Who knows who will listen to this podcast and be like, wow, that was really powerful, right? That's the power that we have as entrepreneurs. That's the power that we have as movement makers, right? And this world from your country to my country and all the countries in between right now need
Need
um,
that.
need this. We
Need
need to
that.
return to a place of love. We need to return to a place of, and so we have massive healing to do. And so I know that the ones that are being called to speak up and have a bigger impact are here to help guide others. And if your company can help, get people more visible, help people get that message out, you're going to have this huge ripple effect of all the light workers that are coming to help the planet in a bigger way. And that just is like so juicy to me.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And when you mention your television about celebrities and whoever, how is going with that? Do you have some um, like a price for that or link that people can register, or how is going with this? Just or they can come just and share the story on your TV show, or
Yeah, so I typically so
if they wanted to promote, maybe they need to pay for that, or just like
we do typically do in person. There's been some occasions where we've done virtual. And obviously if that resonates with people and they want to connect, I mean, obviously they can reach out to me directly. I'll give you my information in the
you
show
will
notes.
give all
Yeah, so they can
information.
just always go to talkingwithteri.com, talking with Teri, that's TERI.com, or they can email me at
Yeah,
Teri, TERI, at talkingwithteri.com. So I'll happy to
yeah,
share that with you. But if that's something that resonates with them, absolutely.
yeah.
But it's really about creating a platform for us sharing sometimes the messy middles, right? Like, because I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get out here and we think that we're on an island all by ourselves and no one else has ever gone this path. And I think we've been a little afraid to share, right? And so I'm really it's interesting because I'm shifting. I'm like in this huge transformational time right now in my life, and I'm really changing the way that I'm doing things to help open those doors up a little bit better and a little bit more welcoming to entrepreneurs, whether they're brand new, whether they've been here or they're, scaling and selling, right? And so it's just opened these conversations up to really help support women entrepreneurs doing some big things.
No, that's fantastic. And when you do coaching, business coaching, can you share with us what do you mostly coach them? Like, what is the core of your coaching in that
Yeah, so
way?
I come from the I always come from the mindset and the energy perspective. So what is it that what is it that we're blocking ourselves from creating? Because so often everyone is, when people come in, they're like, I'm here in this spot, let's call this island A, and my desire is to get to island B. But they've either tried multiple paths and they haven't done it. And so we really look at um, how do we change the vibration? How do we change the beliefs? How do we change the algorithms, if you will? Because everything that you have in your life right now, and all the listeners right now, everything that you have in your life, whether that's the quality of your relationships, your the physical items, whether that's your house, your car, your home, your level of business success, all of that is a vibrational alignment with you now. And everything that you desire is outside of that. So in order for I'll just say the fastest way is to match the vibration, right? But if I have unconscious belief systems and I have unconscious stories that are saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough to do that. Who am I to think that I could do this? all of those things start to
And you
have
can
an
connect that with imposter syndrome, or maybe you can share with
absolutely.
us some. You and at start of this. Sorry, I maybe
Yeah,
this
no, you're good.
I can. You know that you mentioned imposter syndrome. Mindset, whatever. Maybe you can connect with that just to share with us about it. I'm not good enough. I'm not good in that. But if you don't
Oh
try, you
yeah.
have never know how it's going to be. And that is going to be in connection with message for our listeners and audience who wanted to start business, who are stuck but they don't know how to start, and they can
Yeah.
reach out to you just to share
Yeah.
with you,
Well,
to
and
help
I
them with only
yeah,
one
and
person to help. That will be success
yeah,
for me, for my
absolutely.
podcast in this episode today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially when we're starting out, it can be a daunting task because we don't necessarily know what we're getting into until we get into it. And we're like, wait, I have to be my bookkeeper and my widget maker, and I have to be the marketing person and the social media person and 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 like, wait a minute,
Never ending story.
did I sign up for
Those
this? And yet
businesses.
I've been an entrepreneur for over, gosh, 27, I think 28 years. And I don't think I would ever, I mean, I've had some rough times, seriously. But I don't know that I'd ever ask for it any different, right? Because I absolutely love what I do. And um, I think I'm unemployable. So I don't know that anyone would want to hire me anyways.
Yeah, that's lovely. What did you say? Like, I don't want to
I was
listen.
like, yeah, because I have my own thing. Like
Yeah.
but I think it's wonderful. And I love and I just, my message is, yes, it's a lot of work, but if you can find a way to, you know, um, you know, whether that's building capital or getting yourself in a really great place to start, there's a fantastic book that I encourage all entrepreneurs to listen to. Whether you're starting out, you're growing, you're scaling, or selling, it's a great. It's called The E Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, and he talks about creating a successful business.
Can you
Um,
can you can you
I'll
repeat
send it to you in fact.
the
Yeah.
name of the book?
I think it's very story-like, but it talks about systems and, in order for you to scale a business, you've got to have your systems in place. And so I'll drop that in the link and you can add it to it. But I just think it's a great resource for people.
And
I grew my,
maybe people can find it on for free, maybe
yeah.
on
And
internet,
that's how
just
I
or
grew my
just.
business. That's how I grew my first business was I just did the principles based in that book. And so it is more of a business,
Thank you for sharing it. It's going
yeah,
to be
of course.
so helpful for our audience, the listeners who will listen it. And what about when people just start and say, okay, I'm not good enough. And when you coach someone in terms of imposter syndrome, we can most of the time we can say that people share about imposter syndrome and
Yeah.
have educational trainings and other things.
What was the question?
I just wanted to say that maybe you can just connect something and share with us a few words about imposter syndrome. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
popular today because people. I was one of my ex mentor. She was talking about that once, and it was like that. I'm not good enough. I'm shy. Uh, I don't know my values, but
Mhm.
maybe I need step forward and I take two steps back, and this is something what
Yeah.
people are in conflict with their own self.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so to answer that question is, I always look at whatever that individual is bringing in, right? Whatever those stories are. But typically there's um I was going to do a drawing, but just imagine like a forest with all these trees, right? And so the imposter syndrome, if you will, is kind of like a forest on its own. There's been multiple experiences that have happened that have contributed to the evidence of those belief systems. Okay. So that belief system makes up all of these little experiences. And so we usually look at what are the core ones. So I go back in and I utilize energy, I utilize sometimes various tapping tools from either Donna Eden's work or conscious access consciousness work, or sometimes I will pull into the EFT type. And I just get guided by my intuition as well. So then I go in and we work on what are those core issues. And so what happens in the brain is that in the brain, we have created these neural pathways that have said this equals this. So we work on creating and disrupting those patterns and creating new information, new neural pathways to that information. So we reprogram the brain so that that stories no longer have truth or power. We also look at from the body perspective, it's like, what does that come up with? Because oftentimes when we trigger a memory, there's an emotion that gets connected. That emotion, it has a vibration that gets stored in the body. So every time it gets triggered, it goes shoop right back there. Like, oh, I remember being told by my uncle or my dad, my mom, my cousin, my mom, whoever it is, about that. And so there's these two parts. There's the brain part and then there's the body part, right? And so we work on doing, working on clearing those pieces out. And then I'll give them some tools on like, so for example, when we're stuck in our thoughts and we have all these thoughts that come in, we want to cancel out those thoughts so they're not engaging the brain and not engaging the body. So one of these, and I'll say this slowly so your listeners can write this down, is goes like this. Interesting point of view that I have this interesting point of view. And you want to put a 3x behind that. You want to say it 3 times. So interesting point of view that I have this interesting point of view, interesting point of view that I have this point of view, interesting point of view that I have this point of view. And what that does is basically it cancels out the thought. And then what I'd encourage people to do and highly recommend is asking the question, what else is possible? That generative question starts to open us back up. It allows our brain to start to seek out more information. But it's also about, allowing our brains to start to create the new neural pathways that support us now. So a lot of times I'll say, where did this story come from? Okay. Does it serve me now? All stories served us at some point. Okay. When I was growing up, my not good enough served me. It served me because it was a motivator. So I always did more extra work. I became a straight A student, right? So that served me until about college. Then it stopped serving me because I then wanted to become a perfectionistic person and everything had to be perfect. Well, then I'd delay turning things in, I'd miss assignments, everything, and then I created anxiety. So it stopped serving me, but I kept trying to make it work still. And so that in between here, these two phases, that's when it becomes disruptive. That's when we have to take the mirror and look at it and be like, okay, is this serving me right now? If it's serving you still and it's not, creating havoc, okay. But most of the time when people become aware of it, it's because it's becoming a problem, right? It's holding us back. It's not allowing us to have, the uh, what was I say? The you know, oh my goodness, the promotions, or it's not allowing us to, create more clients or whatever it is. So we have to take a look at that and then ask the question, is it serving me now? And what would be a new way to think about it? And if I say I am blank and I don't believe it, the unconscious is going to fight me, right? So that's when I'd invite a question. What I'm curious, what would it be like for me to blank? And so you start to get really curious, and now we start to shift the brain to support us and elevate that, right? And then we can start playing with energy questions and energy tools to start helping us attract to that new vibration. And so it's really looking at the vibrational standpoint as well. If I'm in fear, what's another thought that I can feel that makes me feel annoyed versus fearful, right? What's another thought would make me feel, more in more so that would be, frustrated, and then maybe in an acceptance, right? And you just kind of start to move yourself up. Gratitude and love are the highest frequencies and the highest levels. So the more that we can get ourselves up into those higher frequencies in our bodies, the more that we can create in alignment with our highest and greatest good.
Oh,
So I hope
that
that answers the question. So
yeah, you asked.
multifaceted answer.
Yeah, you asked. You really asked me my question, and it's so useful. It's also it's such a benefit for our listeners just to know that, just
Yeah.
to practice it. And before you shared amazing story. I asked you many questions, but it is the meaning that you will be again a guest speaker on my podcast.
Perfect.
So
Mhm.
whenever you have something new, or maybe we can speak on some topic, whatever may be. But also, final message for our listeners, if you just don't give up, just if you don't want to start
Final message.
business, or if you are
Yeah.
in stuck with yourself.
Yeah.
And
Final message would be, I invite everyone to step into their knowing and trusting. Every one of us has the answers within. We've got to just take a moment to go back in within and ask some questions of ourselves. But also, I would just ask people to, get curious, activate the curiosity to all the possibilities, start to step forward with courage. And when we do, we become absolutely unstoppable. Every single one of us has a purpose on this planet. If we didn't, we would have been taken away off this place. We would have perished by now, right? The fact that you have a body, the fact that you're on this journey says you have some amazing gifts that are ready to share the world. And so it's your time. Your time is now. No more waiting, no more playing small. Step into the now, step into your power, step into your gifts and own it.
yeah, and and time is always now. So thank you for sharing your story today. It was lovely talking to you, and our audience can connect with you with on your website, Teri. Can you repeat again?
Yep,
And when people can connect with you on social media, you
yep, it's
will
Teri at talkingwithteri.com. That's TERI. And then they can reach out to me. Pretty much all my social media handles are Talking with
LinkedIn,
Teri.
Facebook, Instagram,
Yep,
X.
Talking with Teri. Yep. And
Yeah.
I'll send those to you so you have all
Yeah,
those.
you will.
But
Yeah,
love
we'll
to
put all links. It's going to be an audio on Amazon. It's going to be an Apple, Spotify. Also, it's going to be on YouTube channel. So it's going to be on your page once, just like that. Your
Yes,
audience can connect with
absolutely.
you. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story again. For have time to join me today, and for all of you who wanted to connect with Teri, just please go on her social media, Teri Karjala. How can I say?
Yeah,
Teri,
Talking with Teri. Yep, Talking with Teri.
talking with Teri, and you will get all information and consultation. What you wanted to, if you wanted to work with Teri as a coach or be a guest on her TV show, whatever, she can help you a lot. Thank you, Teri, and have
Awesome.
a
Thank
lovely
you.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so, thank you so much, and bye for now.